Hello, welcome to Top Agent Training. I am Kurt with Inspections Over Coffee. We're going to be brief on this one. I have much longer trainings on mold. If you've seen them, great. If this is just a refresher, we're going to talk about the basics and usually the mistakes that people made. And part of the problem with mold is that everybody kind of says they want to do it the right way, but it's a little pricey to do it the right way. What I found is that it's actually least expensive just to do it the right way so that you don't have the problems moving forward down the road. A couple of scenarios. You have a kitchen sink that has water damage underneath it and you see mold. Some home inspectors get all weird about it, like, oh, I'm not going to use the M word, like whatever. If it's mold, it's mold. It's probably mold. You could take a tape sample or a swab sample to verify that it's mold, but that's not really overly helpful. Like you look at it, you're like, well, it's water damage, it's most likely mold. But what it is if it's been dried out and it's been around a long time, is that a problem that's causing issues with the whole house? In other words, when that mold dries out, it's like spilling a bag of flour in your kitchen. And if you don't clean up that bag of flour, where will it be in 6 months? All flat surfaces, ceiling fans, air ducts, the HVAC system, it'll be everywhere, right? So every time you turn the air on, little mold particles are being spread around the house. So the reason you still might want to do an evaluation when you find mold is because we want to know how expansive is the problem. If I had a big mold problem under a kitchen sink and my house that I'm in right now has 3 stories, I want to know if it's limited to just the second story with the kitchen, or is it on the first floor and the third floor? Has it gone through the whole HVAC system? Some houses have 2, 3, 4 air conditioning systems. And so it's important to take those air samples to find out where the problem's gone to. That way, the person who took the samples can write up the remediation protocol that tells the remediators how to fix the problem. So here's how it doesn't always work this way. I would say less than 20% of the time it works this way, especially where I'm at in Arizona, because there's no rules or no laws. People do whatever they want on here. And usually what they're doing is taking money from the clients that they haven't really earned. So the first thing that happens is for $300, $400, $500, you should get an evaluation done that checks all of the air throughout the entire house, including where you think the problem is. Then that person or that company who took those samples has to have the ability to write up a remediation protocol. If you know of an inspector who takes air samples, what does an air sample look like? It looks like this. That's an air sample. Basically, that little thing comes apart and inside there is the microscope slide. There's a little sticky stuff on there. Particles get stuck on it and the lab can tell us how many mold spores there are in a cubic meter of air. And what we're looking for are levels that are higher than or not consistent with what's in the outdoor air. So this ability to write up the remediation protocol is really important. Some people inspectors will literally charge you that same $300, $400, $500, take the samples down to the lab, and then forward you the lab results. They're ripping you off. I'm just gonna tell you how it is. That is a total ripoff. They're paying about $25, $30 each sample to get read by the lab. They're charging you $300 or $400 and forwarding you what the lab said. So are you telling me that taking samples and driving the lab is worth $200, $300, $400? Like, of course not. What you want is a remediation protocol. So what is a remediation protocol? Here in our template, you can see that we actually give you the entire write-ups that come from all the books that are written about how to clean up mold properly. The most important book being what's called IICRC 520. IICRC 500 is for water damage. 520 starts to talk about air quality and mold. And what we do is we actually give you the entire write-up from the book, and we tell you where to do it and where to do and how to do it with the protective gear you wear. I mean, it's a very long write-up. So there's no questions, right? And the reason is and then you bring in whoever you want, ABC, 1, 2, 3, we know a few, to actually follow our directions. The reason the remediator shouldn't be writing the protocol is because they have a financial bias. In states that have licensing, the remediators are not allowed to write it up. Because if you imagine a scenario where, let's say you do a home inspection, you find mold, you have an evaluator come in, they do the evaluation, and then they leave the what's going to get cleaned up to the homeowner or to the insurance company or to the remediation company. Well, they all have a financial bias, right? The insurance company doesn't want to spend any money. The remediator wants to tear down the whole house and rebuild it. They want the biggest job possible. And the homeowner says, I just want my house fixed. Please fix my house. So we're a third party for $400 or $500 that doesn't care if we write up a small job or a big job because we're not financially incentivized based on the size of the job. So that's step one. Have a person who's not part of the cleanup deciding how much cleanup needs to happen. And then that whole write-up needs to go. And we clean the surfaces and we clean the air. You can watch my whole training on that. I'm not going to go all into that right now. But the thing to remember is that there's mold floating around in the air and you can clean the air. And that's the part you need to clean. So back to the original thing I said, if you go into a house that looks perfect, it was a flip, but you think or know that there was water damage before, you might want to get air samples to see if they actually clean the air or if there's like leftover mold particles flying around in the air that still are left to be cleaned up. So then the cleanup happens. And again, you got to watch my whole training on how that happens. I'm not going to get into that right now. But then the last thing that has to happen is you bring us or a company like us, preferably us, back in and we do another round of sampling. And what that is right here, the clearance evaluation. And the idea is, it's like you go to the doctor, blood work comes back, says your cholesterol's a little high. Doctor says, hey, I want you to eat healthy, exercise a little more, and take this pill. Well, what are they gonna have you do? 3 months later, you're gonna come back and we're gonna do another round of blood work, right? Same thing here. While the containment's still up, before they tear everything down, we go back inside the containment, the area that was affected, and we take samples and we verify that all the things that we recommended were actually done, cleaned up, water's gone, water damage is gone, mold's gone, and we test the air. Most people don't know this, and it's not done right by a lot of the industry. You have to take 2 samples inside the containment. So let's just say you had a kitchen area that was had water damage, and you put the containment up, you clean it all up. We would take 1 sample outdoors, 2 inside the containment. You have to have a verification sample, basically, as extra proof. And then if visually and it was good and all the water was cleaned up, and the mold levels are back down below closer to outside levels, then you're off and running. You take the containment down, you build the kitchen back out. So that is kind of the ABCs of mold cleanup and how it's supposed to happen properly. I literally saw a post yesterday and they're like, call this company, call that company. The problem is these remediation companies come in and they're like, well, I don't know, I think it's like 1,800. Or they'll come in and they go, well, we need a sample in the walls. We got a sample under the cabinet. They're just running the bill up. It's not how it works. Trust us, we work with engineering firms, insurance companies, industrial hygienists. We do everything by the book and we actually get the problem solved without anybody getting ripped off. So I'm very adamant about it because I see people get taken advantage of, and there's kind of no mold police out in the world to say, hey, stop ripping those people off, but that's what we do. So I look forward to working with you on there. Hopefully you never need the mold stuff from us, but if you do, now you have the information and you call our number and we're happy to help you out. All right, we'll see you in the next training.